Hi, I'm Susan. I'm going to tell you a story which occurred a couple of years ago when I was 19 years old, but still remains in my mind because it can never be forgotten. It was indeed an event that can never be forgotten. I lived a life in a family which consisted of 4 children, 2 guys and 2 ladies, which I happened to be one amongst those ladies. I was the oldest in my family because I happened to be the firstborn of the family. Right within me, I knew that I had a whole lot of responsibilities on me. My life from the beginning was very fun, and I grew up living with my family, friends, and my neighbors, though there were a lot of ups and downs then in my family, but I was very hyperactive back then. I was very hyper and wouldn't stop moving around the place from one joint to another. I was so not back then and always ever seemed to get my homework done at school. I was born at Kaiser Hospital. The first place I lived was on the street via Harriet and was right next to a train station. It was fun and so much annoying listening to the sound of arriving trains then. It was always noisy when the train passed by because it will shake the house and scared all the animals in the surroundings. It wasn't the best place to live, but as time goes, we eventually moved to the hills, where we never experienced the noise of a train again. I have never for once really thought about where my life was going. All I know was that I'm the firstborn of the house, and I'm sure I have a lot of responsibilities on me. I always believed life took me where I wanted to go. I never thought that I was the one who took myself where I wanted to go. After we moved to our new apartment on the hills, my parents decided to change the school I attended because it would be too stressful going to my former school from my current location. Immediately I entered the high school, my mentality about life changed. This is why I chose to go to college when I was asked which school I would love to go. I believe that college will give me the keys to unlock the doors of life. This way, I can choose for myself where I go, instead of someone choosing for me. I have chosen to go to the local community college to get used to the college experience. It was on a Monday morning, my first day in my new school. My mom woke me up so early so as to get prepared and not be late for school. I got to school before the assembly started immediately. When the assembly bell was rang, I followed the direction, which a lot of people followed, so as to get to the assembly ground. It's all amazing and awesome. It's all totally different from the way it was held in my previous school. I was really happy and excited. After I got to class, the teaching and the students were all amazing. During the break hour, some female friends came to meet asking of my name and trying to make friends with me. Now the day is over. We all need to go home. I followed the school bus home so as to get home on time to gist my parent how my day went in my new school. Only for me to get home and discover that my parents are fighting each other again, as usual. I just went into my room quietly and kept to myself all day. College life can be an exciting time, but at the same time, it can be so challenging. I know this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a positive influence in the lives of children. I want to be able to stand up and show the children that it's okay to be yourself and stand up for what you believe in. I am a well-rounded student. For 2 years, I was actively involved in a girls' organization. This experience taught me many things. We were actively involved in community service activities, for which I received the Silver Award, the second highest award in the organization. I was so happy when that award was given to me, reason being that all what I planned for my life is getting achieved, one after the other, and also I'm making my parents proud. I learned about the value of friendship and patience with others. This organization first introduced me to my future career, which was a great plus to my life. I was also involved for 1.5 years in a student government club on college. In this club, I learned many life lessons, one of which was the value of hard work. I was one of the few people that organized the junior-senior prom of 2000. My responsibilities included planning coronation, buying and organizing decorations, planning the busing schedule, booking the photographers, fundraising, etc. This taught me about hard work, but the best part of it was going to prom knowing I was one of the only reasons that made it happen. In my family, it was so much normal to see my parents fighting and throwing things at each other. It has always been a painful moment for me and my siblings anytime we see our parents in such scenario. A case once happened back then which was so serious and critical when my father threw a bottle of beer at my mom's head, and she ended up in the hospital. It was indeed a painful experience because we almost lost my mom back then. My father threw a bottle of beer at her just because she refused to change the television station to his own choice. My mom spent more than a month in the hospital because she landed in a coma after the bottle was thrown at her. A series of money was spent on her before she finally came back to life. After that incident, all we thought was that my dad will come back to his senses and stop the way they both fight each other. But no, reverse is the case. The fighting still continued. Many of these events keep happening in my family, and even our neighbors got tired of settling issues between them. And if it wasn't for the school I and my siblings attend, we don't know how we would have survived all this. So it's time for competition in my class, and the teacher decided to share us into 2 groups. So in my class, there were 2 groups. Each group loved their singers and their sport teams, and yes, I was made the leader in my team. We defended with everything, and also we had our stars. For example, we loved Justin Bieber, and the other group was against us for it. We had a lot of fights with other opponents, and especially after school. To be honest, the other group was a bit weaker than us, reason being that they were much lower in number, and they got no talented person in their midst, but somehow they started to get their strength when we had a new student in our class and the teacher decided to fix her in the other group, and the name of the student was called Barbara. Barbara came from another school for the reasons I don't know, but when she came to our class and she'd been fixed in group 2, she started fighting my teammates every day for no reason. She would take up every little thing that happened. Barbara was a good-looking girl and so much attractive to every male in our class because she got a pretty face and some nice shapes and curves. A lot of guys fight over her just to get her number. Different guys are dying just to talk to her. Barbara becomes so much popular and famous in the college all of a sudden, but with me, I know she will be up to something later in future. Even teachers started to love her. More than we do. She was made a prefect and also the class captain in less than some months. Though Barbara is very brilliant and good at what she does. Barbara was also a girl who came from a rich family that were very well known and well-to-do, and guess what? Just to my surprise, some of my teammates left my team and started moving to her team. One by one for the reason I don't know. And at the end of the day, I was only left with 3 of my girlfriends and Mason. Mason. Mason is a good-looking boy, blonde, and he was a type of boy that every girl would like to have because he got everything he wanted in a guy. Mason is honest, kind, cute, brilliant, caring, trustworthy, attractive, and fun to be with, and a lot more of criteria embedded in him. To be honest, I like him a lot, and I'm tripping for him, but I don't want to be forward as a lady because I think he loves me as well. Well, I'll tell you about our love story later. One faithful day, while I was in class, I noticed that Mason was missing in class. I was still trying to look around for him in class, but then I heard some voices calling my name. Susan! Susan! I tried tracing the voice outside the class. I rushed to see what's going on, and what I saw was Barbara talking to Mason in a private area. I was so pissed and jealous at first, but I never knew what they were talking about. So I decided to stay calm. But in all my mind, I knew Barbara was up to something. After class, I ran to meet Mason, to stylishly ask what they were both discussing. But to my surprise, Mason was just beating around the bush. Same thing happened the following day, but this time, when they saw me, they got detached immediately. I asked Mason again, "What's going on?" He said nothing. She just asked me to help her out in something. So I told him that he's trying to leave my team as well, or what. But then he shouted at me and left. Then I knew something had gone wrong. Days went by, and obviously Mason has changed toward me entirely, so one day I decided to secretly sneak on Mason's phone to check his messages and chat. And then I saw what marveled me. A lot. I saw he texted Barbara, and Barbara sent him some hearts and love texts to him. And from there, I understood that they are loving each other, which means that Barbara has achieved part of her plans. But I will make sure that her plan will not be achieved completely. So I decided that one day I'm going to approach Barbara to talk some shit to her head. So that day after school hour, I went straight to Barbara to confront her. But then immediately, I got to where she was staying. All what I planned to say wiped off my head, so I went blank. But then I told her to leave Mason alone, and I went further, saying to her that Mason is my boyfriend, that she should let him be, otherwise you're going to have a problem with me. She was shocked seeing me in that manner, because I have never for once behaved in such a manner ever since I got to that college. The following day, after we left the assembly ground, Mason came towards my direction to approach me and shouted at me that what effrontery do I have to speak to Barbara in such manner? He so much raised his voice at me that few numbers of people looked toward our direction, and I was seriously embarrassed. Throughout my stay in school that day, I was not myself. I did not talk to anyone. I kept to myself, and after the school hour, I went home quietly, without saying a word to anybody. When I got home, I found my parents having issues again and fighting. I never knew when I busted into tears in their presence immediately. My parents stopped the fight and faced my direction. I just went quietly to my room and locked the door. I was so depressed that I was lost in thought all day that I slept off without eating. The issues between my parents and the one going on in my life is so frustrating. Now I've decided to stand on my feet, never to let my family issues or my personal life issues bring me down. Now Barbara has taken all my teammates, and now she is also taking my lovely Mason. I will never let that happen, and it will not happen. So I decided to take some naughty move, but I later ended up messing myself up with it. One day I texted Mason, "Sweetheart, can you please come over to my place so that we can practice our homework together?" But I was surprised with the reply I got back from him. But then I'm sure it was Barbara that took his phone to reply back to me. So Barbara took Mason his phone and replied to me saying, "I'm not your sweetheart. Please don't write to me again. I hate you." Immediately after the reply, she took a screenshot of the message I sent to Mason and spread it all the class the following day. When I got to school the following day, I discovered that people were just laughing at me, and then I later noticed that it was because of the message I sent to Mason. So immediately I went straight to meet Mason and asked him about the message, And he told me that his phone was with Barbara when I sent the message yesterday. So she was the one that spread the screenshot. I was so ashamed of myself for some moment, but then I never let that discourage me at all, because I already got my mind made up. But then I thought of it. Why don't I just go and meet Barbara face to face, and then we can talk it out with our actions? So I decided to go meet her. So this is it. I couldn't stand it anymore. So I just have to tell Barbara that I have a beef. I want to fight. I will wait for you after class. She was surprised hearing me say that, but I just have to take the move. Class is over. Immediately after the class, I went out so fast so as to go and wait for her. I was waiting for her outside. It took her up to an hour before she showed up. I already thought she would not be coming, but then I saw her arriving with all her teammates. I was looking into her eyes until she came close enough, and I pushed her with all my force I got, and she fell backwards and hit her head on the concrete. At first, I was happy that she fell on the ground, but then everyone screamed and ran away because Barbara refused to get up from the floor. Barbara was not coming onto her feet. I was very scared and feeling feverish immediately. I screamed her name, but she refused to stand up. She remained on the ground. Then I saw some teacher coming our way, so I ran away. I rushed home with fear all over me. My brothers asked me what was wrong. All I could say was to lie to them, saying it was a teacher that flogged me in school because I did not do well in my classwork. When my mom noticed I didn't come out for dinner, she came into my room to check on me and asked me what was wrong. I told her nothing happened, but tears were all over my face. I was unable to hold back the tears. She was all around me that night, but I did not say a word to her. She persuaded me to talk, but those words are too heavy for me to say. She left my room without hearing a word from me, but within me, I'm sure she will still know about it. I couldn't sleep all night. I was trying to imagine what could have happened. At a point, I was blaming myself. Why did I make the move of telling her to come and meet outside? Why did I push her? Why did I confront her? Why didn't I just let everything go? Series of questions were just running through my mind all the night. I was unable to close my eyes for just 1 second. Such a thing has never happened to me before. I could not open up for my parents because I never knew what they would say to me or do if I should explain the situation to them. The next day, I didn't go to school. I received a call from Mason, but I did not pick his call up. I was panicked and scared. Then in the afternoon, a teacher called my parents and explained everything that happened to them. They also notified my parents the update about Barbara's condition, that Barbara is in the hospital. She'd been admitted and in a state of coma. Immediately, my parents came to my room. They met me crying, but as a parent, even though they were not happy with the situation, they just have to console me at the moment. So we left for the school immediately. On getting to the principal's office, I was questioned for doing such an act, and a lot more was said to me. I was suspended from coming to school. Now I'm living a life of regret. I was unable to see Mason again, my teammates, my friends, and a lot more. Days after days, since I was not allowed to come to school again, I was in my room doing nothing but praying to God to heal Barbara, because I know a lot of things that is attached to it if she passes away. So one faithful day, after a week, we got the news that Barbara passed away. Oh my God! How come? How did it happen? Did God refuse to answer my prayers? Many of questions were just running through my head. I was weeping and rolling on the floor. Everyone was shocked, but I was even frightened and afraid the more. According to the doctor's report, Barbara had a large tumor on her head, but also said that she had an internal bleeding, which was too much, that she lost a lot of blood. My life ended there, because immediately she landed at the hospital, her parents already filed a case at the station. Now that her death has been announced, I have no other choice than to face the wrath of government. So I was arrested and sent to court. I was sent to juvenile detention for 4 years. Now I ruined my life with anger. I ruined my life with jealousy. Going to school has been stopped. I put my parents in shame. Now Mason has forgotten about the person called Susan. My plan and what I wish to become has been crumbled with my own hand. If and only if I could take back the hand of time, then I would not have allowed this to happen. If and only if this cup can pass over me, then I will be forever grateful. But all this are only mere thoughts which can never come to pass. I spent all the 4 years in regrets and lived alone, and with 100 times of more problems than what I have experienced in school. It was indeed a hell. I never wish anyone to go there, not even my enemies. I cried every day and spent many nights thinking about what I did to Barbara. In my head sometimes came a reason telling me to stop, because Barbara left, but not for my fault. But then, again, deep in me, I knew that I was the person who is guilty of all this. I found 1,000 ways I should react to that situation to stop this from happening. And I still, in my mind, got Barbara, and still think about what I should have done instead. The situation was so serious that I feel guilty, and I can't pass a day without thinking about her. I ruined it all. Now the day has come. 4 years has come and gone. I never knew it's already 4 years because I lost count already. On that faithful day, an officer came toward me and told me to come out, that it's time for me to be released. I was so happy again, knowing fully well that I'm going to see my family again. When I got to the officer's office, I saw my younger ones with joy in my heart. I gave them a huge and long hug. So the officer told me they were the ones that sent for my family, since it's already time for me to be released. My siblings are now grown up, but not looking well kept. When I noticed that I did not see our parents, I asked them what was about our parents. But they told me that when we get home, everything will be explained. Well, I didn't get to worry myself about that because I was so happy and joyous. Finally, I got home and everywhere is now changed. The surroundings and the whole environment is changed completely. I shouted, "Mom! Mom! Mom!" But to my surprise, I received answer from no one. I called my dad, also no reply as well. Then I asked my younger ones, where are they? Then they broke the news, saying they are both dead. I shouted, "How? What happened? Who killed them?" All these questions were asked with tears on my face. I was told Mummy died after some month. I went to jail because of the thought of seeing her own first child being sentenced to prison. And also, Dad died some years after Mum passed away. He had turned into a drunkard, and he drank all day and night, regretting all his actions over Mum and not taking proper care of us. They also told me that they've been surviving from helping people with their house chores and lots more of petty work so that they can feed and go to school daily. I busted into tears so loud that my younger ones just had to leave me to cry it out. Day after day, I need to get out of the thought of what life has given to me and move on with what I have for myself. My schooling career has been hindered because I need to put some food on the table for my younger ones. So I went searching for a job as a salesperson in a nearby supermarket, which I was actually accepted, and I was getting paid by the end of the month, and I was using that to take care of my siblings. I was able to send my junior ones to school, even if it was not up to a normal standard school, but at least I was trying my best to be a father and mother to them. Also, my boss at work has been so supportive financially and in a word of encouragement because I told her about my story, and she was really touched when she heard about it. After some years, I was in the supermarket performing my normal daily activities, and all of a sudden, a Prince Charming young cute guy walked in, making an inquiry on what he wants to get from the other staff, but I was attending to other customers. Immediately, I heard the guy's voice. It is so much sounds familiar. I looked up to see who was talking, and guess what? It was Mason! I screamed at the top of my voice, "Mason!" He was so shocked to see me, and he was so very happy as well. He asked what I was doing here, and I told him. I'm one of their staff, and guess what? Mason is now a top medical doctor in a well-known hospital in the country. He collected my contact that day and fixed a date for us to see and talk. Well, so fast I and Mason get along with each other. After I narrated all that happened to him, right from the time I was sentenced to prison till date, Mason and I became best of friends, and now he explained to me what him and Barbara were discussing those days in the college. He told me that Barbara and him were planning on how Group 1, which was my team, will win the competition. And as for my teammates leaving my group, he said it was all a planned work. He told me that the screenshot she sent round the school was just to divert my attention, so I would feel jealous. Now I was so ashamed of myself, and I prayed to God for forgiveness. After all that, luckily for me, Mason and I continue our love story from where we had stopped it in college days. Now I got to remember Barbara the more every blessed day. Not up to a year, Mason proposed to me, and guess what? I said yes. Now I am married and have a daughter which I named Barbara. I want it to be that every time I call her to remind me what I did. Though Mason was not in support of me naming our daughter Barbara, but I had to plead with him to please allow me. I want to pay the sentence, and yes, I am paying it every day. I cry every day and pray for her. God bless Barbara.